guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Beth and I am the Bookworm Trait. And today I am bringing you Sims Picks My TBR for November. So in November I am going to be participating in NaNoWriMo. It's basically a writing challenge where I will be attempting to write 100,000 words in a month. Can I do it? Probably not, but I'm gonna try. This will obviously have an impact on my reading. I will have less time to read. And in addition to that, I want to be very careful with the books that I am choosing. I don't want to read anything that is going to potentially influence the way that I write. My project for NaNoWriMo is kind of like a gothic fantasy with dark academia aspects. That's how I would describe it. So I want to avoid any contemporary fantasy, any gothic novels, any dark academia novels, or anything that's particularly atmospheric in the way that it's written. And thank God, thank the Lord Almighty, Sims Picks My TBR was so kind to me this month. So I got everything on my TBR that I wanted and more. So if this is your first time watching Sims Picks My TBR, how this works is I use a random trait generator to generate 3 random traits, 1 random aspiration, and with the aspiration you get a bonus trait. And for every trait and aspiration in The Sims 4, I have assigned a prompt on a type of book to read. Now, one thing that I did realise when I did this month's TBR was that I hadn't actually assigned prompts to the most recent traits. So sometimes with the new releases of expansion packs, game packs, stuff packs, whatever, you will get new aspirations or new traits, and I haven't been keeping up to date with it. So I did have a trait come up that I didn't have a prompt for. I just did that one. I just tried to pick something that I felt fit with what the description of the trait was, but I will need to make sure that that is all amended for next month. So what I will probably do at some point in November is just go through all the traits, and I might just give them a big overhaul because there's a couple that I just think are a bit weird, or something else might fit better. So we might have a different list in December, but we'll see. If you are interested, I will have the random trait generator that I use linked below, as well as the list to all of the prompts in case you want to have a look at them. But let's get into the video. So the traits that I had this month were Child of the Ocean, and for this I need to read a book with an ocean or sea setting. Green Fiend, which is from the Eco Lifestyle pack, and I hadn't assigned a prompt to this, but I went with a character who wants to improve their environment. And Lazy, and for this I just picked the first book that comes to mind. I had the aspiration of Serial Romantic, which is actually one of my favourite Sims aspirations, and I just needed to pick a book with a heart on the cover for this. And I had the bonus trait of Alluring, and this is to pick a book that calls to me. So yeah, Sims was really kind. I basically had one option to just pick any book I wanted. So a book that calls to me, any book that I want, and everything else just kind of worked out for me. So let's get into it. So we'll start with Child of the Ocean. So this is to pick a book with a sea or ocean setting. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory as to why that is the prompt. And for this, I have gone with the book Sea Witch by Katie Roberts. This is a dark erotic romance. Which I haven't read romance for quite a while, and I've definitely been like craving it recently. So I'm really happy that I've been able to get this onto my TBR for this month. This is the most recent release in the Wicked Villains series, which is a modern day reimagining of, I'm going to say Disney villains, because we have some from mythology and we have some from like fairy tales, and they are reimagined as like gangsters. It's very fun, it's very dirty. You know, they're not like the best romance books ever written, but I just really enjoy them. I just really like the characters. I really enjoy Katie Roberts' writing style. I've read quite a few books from her now and I've liked all of them. So yeah, I'm happy to continue with the series. The Sea Witch is a take on The Little Mermaid, I believe. So Ursula's obviously our villain, and I believe this is a polyamorous relationship in this book as well between Eric, Ariel and Ursula. The names might be slightly different, but you get the gist. I'm so happy that I managed to get this onto my TBR this month because I've been wanting to read this book since before it was released. So I can't wait, and I know I will definitely get that book read. So the next prompt is lazy. I don't do any prep for this prompt. I'm just going to pick the first book that comes to mind now. The problem is when I do this, my brain goes blank and I can't think of any books that I have. So first book that comes to mind now is Nevermore. I've read Nevermore, so it's not going to be Nevermore. The next book that comes to mind is a book that I own, House of Salt and Sorrow. Okay, let me go and get House of Salt and Sorrow. So apologies if you can hear the car alarm going off. Please, whosever car that is, go and sort it out. I'm really sorry, it's just gonna have to be in the background. So House of Salt and Sorrow. I've had this prompt before, the lazy prompt, and it is surprisingly difficult. So obviously I do the trait generator before I pick my books. In theory, I could prep for this prompt. I could think about all the books that I want to read. I try not to, but obviously I can't help it. I think about books that I want to read. So one of the books that I really wanted to read this month was Black Flamingo. I still might reread it. I've been wanting to reread it for a while, and recently I saw Becca from Becca and the Books posted something on her story about it, and I was like, oh, I want to read it again because I really related to that book, and I really wanted to tab and annotate it at the time, but I read it in one sitting and I didn't have any tabs or anything to hand. So when I was like thinking about what would I maybe like to read this month, that was one of the books. But when it actually comes down to sitting here and trying to think of a book that I own, my brain just goes blank. Anyway, House of Salt and Sorrows is not what I want to read this month. I believe that this is quite an atmospheric book, and I believe the writing is quite poetic. So I did actually consider having this for the ocean setting prompt, but decided this probably wasn't the best month to read it because I'm doing NaNoWriMo. But obviously that meant it was kind of in the back of my mind somewhere, and so it came out and it's what I'm going to be reading. I actually got this book when it first came out. I'm not sure exactly when that was. I believe it was like summer last year, and I was super hyped to read it at the time, but since then I have kind of lost interest. I've heard mixed things about it, and I'm not really massively into YA fantasy at the moment as well, but I love fairy tale retellings. I absolutely love, this is based on the 12 Dancing Princesses, which is a fairy tale that I really love. I love books set in or by the sea, and I really love lyrical and poetic writing. This is also blurbed by Melissa Albert, who wrote The Hazelwood, which is one of my all-time favourite books as well. So this could go one of two ways. This could end up really great, or this could be terrible. I might hate this, I might love this. We'll see. One thing I will say is this book is absolutely stunning. Just like, look at her. And I think it's got something, yeah. And then there's this like octopus. You probably can't see it that well. There's an octopus under the dust jacket as well. And then like the end pages are also really gorgeous. So House of Salt and Sorrow follows a girl called Annalie who lives with her father, her stepmother and her sisters. There used to be 12 sisters, but many of them have died in not mysterious ways, but the fact that all of them, or so many of them, have died is in itself mysterious. Annalie eventually discovers that her sisters are sneaking out at night to attend balls, and they are dancing the night away, and Annalie needs to try and find out what is going on, why her sisters are going to these balls, whilst also having some kind of romance subplot with some guy. So moving on to our aspiration, serial romantic, and this is probably the aspiration that I use most often in The Sims because I like my Sims to be dirty dogs. The prompt for this is to read a book with a heart on the cover, and so this was a very easy pick for me. I'm very excited to be reading this book. I will be listening to the audiobook, but I'm very excited. And this book is Are These My Bazoomas I See Before Me, which is the last book in the Georgia Nicholson series, also known as the Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging series, also known as the Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging series. If you've been here a while, you'll know that I've been doing a reread of this series, so I'm very excited that it's finally coming to an end and I'm finally going to see what happens. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen. It's not like, you know, like it's not a book full of twists and turns. It's pretty clear where the romantic end game is going to be, but I'm still excited to finally finish it. This is an incredibly nostalgic series for me. It's a book that I read growing up. I never finished it because it's like a 9-book series, so by the time by the time like the 5th or 6th book came out, I'd already kind of stopped reading them. And it's just nice to finally be finishing the series. I adore these books. I think they are hilarious. I just relate to them so much because they are written for someone who was my age in the year that I was that age. But with that comes a few issues. So being a teenager in the early 10s, or whatever we call those years, I don't know. But in the early 10s, we weren't the best role models, shall we say. There was a lot of body shaming and fat phobia and homophobia, and that was just kind of how we talked, how we lived. That was just deemed acceptable. Obviously, we know a hell of a lot better now, and we know that a lot of the things that we used to say we shouldn't have been saying. And sadly, that means that these books can be a little bit problematic. I also think that it is very much the nostalgia that makes these books enjoyable. I have seen some booktubers read these books and not enjoy them because they didn't ever read them. Also, my goddaughter has started reading these books and it's like, they're not even funny. I don't know why you guys love them so much. So I think it's just one of those things. If you read these books growing up, read them again. They're amazing. If you've never read these books, probably just skip them. And finally, our bonus trait was alluring, and this is to pick a book that calls to me. I felt like that is kind of just what the trait is. Alluring is, you know, pulling people into your orbit, and this is a book that has pulled me into its orbit. So this is a book that I have been dying to read for a very long time. I'm very, very, very excited to finally own this book, and that is Lara Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. This is a graphic novel, and guys, this is so gorgeous. The colour scheme of this book, like, I love this. This is so my style, just a really simple black and white with the pops of like blush. Like, oh, I just love it. The reason that I picked this finally is because I did want to try and read some graphic novels this month to take a bit of pressure off me. So even though this is quite a chunky graphic novel, I still feel that I'll get through it in no time at all. Did I say Lara Dean? It's Laura Dean, and I think I'm confusing it with Lara Jean. I'm not sure exactly what this is about. I just know that it has a female-female relationship in there, and I believe there's also a subplot which is to do with a character recovering from abuse. So yeah, I think this is going to be really good. I've only ever heard good things about it, and I'm just very excited to finally own it because A, it's beautiful, and B, I want to read it. I've missed a prompt. Okay. So I've missed a prompt out, so we're gonna take a step back. Usually when I come and film these videos, I'm super prepared. I have everything written out in order, and I usually have it on my iPad, which means if I need to Google anything as well, I can. Today I have a scrap of paper, and like I've written on the back of a scrap of paper as well, which is economical, but is why I'm less organised than normal. So I missed the prompt Green Fiend, which is one of the traits from Eco Lifestyle. This trait is all about a sim who wants to improve their neighborhood. They want to make their neighborhood more green. So the prompt I've given it is a character who wants to change their environment for the better. So for this, I have gone with volume 2 of Skyward, and I read volume 1 of Skyward earlier this year. Obviously, I can't tell you what this volume is about because spoilers, but I will tell you a little bit about volume 1. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't remember it super well. Like, I remember what happened, but I don't remember how much of what happened is a spoiler and how much I was aware of going into it. So we follow Willa, this is Willa, and on Earth there was a day, I think it's known as like anti-gravity day or something like that. I might have just made that up, but whatever. On that day, gravity just ceased to exist. So this is obviously very dangerous. People can just float off up into space, and obviously up there you're going to die. So it's not an ideal environment for humans, animals, the world in general. Willa's father is a scientist, and he has information that he is reluctant to share with the world. That's all I'm going to say, because as I said, I don't want to spoil it, but I really enjoyed the first volume. I struggled through the first few pages, but once I kind of got into the story, I really enjoyed it. Now, just because I can't do anything in half measures, and if I'm not like at my breaking point, then I'm not living, I am planning on taking part in one readathon, just one, in November, and that is, I think it's called the 1,000 Doors readathon. I forget who it's hosted by. Let's put a list here. But I'm not able to prep a TBR for that because it's like a choose your own adventure type readathon, and you only get the prompts after you complete the prompt. So we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, just to recap with what we are reading this month. So we have got The Sea Witch, which I will be reading the ebook for, and this was for the trait Ocean Living, Ocean Baby, Child of the Ocean. We have got Skyward, which was for Green Fiend. We've got House of Salt and Sorrows for Lazy. Why was this the book that came to mind? For the Aspiration Serial Romantic, I will be listening to the audiobook of Are These My Presumas I See Before Me. And for the Alluring bonus trait, I will be reading Lara Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I may also be reading Way of Kings Part 2, but who knows? So if you have made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. Please leave me your favourite coloured love heart in the comments down below to let me know that you were here. Mine is orange, always, sometimes white, but mostly orange. If you've read any of these books or you've got any recommendations for me, then please let me know that too. And if you want to see more from me in the future, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. And hopefully you will come back and see me in another video soon. Bye.